It's not impossible for us to understand, but we're so far out of it, it's mind-boggling to know. I haven't been to a meeting in 5 years internationally, and I've been, that's not the end of the clause, I've been to 1,000 meetings internationally in 5 years. I haven't been to a meeting in the last 5 years where a U.S. government official participated constructively in anything. In anything. It's as if it's absolutely a matter of scorn, and it's a matter of abuse to have to be in those meetings. So I can't stress, it's so weird. This is part of the difference. It's, again, George's difference of reality and the surface. I can't stress how deep-seated this is right now. Now, it can change, but just to give you, I shouldn't, but anyway, because I carry on about these things. We had our midpoint of the Millennium Goals at the UN 2 weeks ago. This was the whole world coming together to talk about extreme poverty, hunger, and disease. It's a worthy topic, actually, for a lot of reasons. Not only the 10 million children who die every year, but because of the violence and conflict and many other threats that arise from it. So George Bush came, and he gave his speech to the assembled leaders. He mentioned terror 31 times in the speech. I counted, because he mentioned Millennium Development Goals not once. Not one time in the week that the world's leaders had assembled for that purpose. By the way, the word environment didn't appear once. The word climate didn't appear once. As if the rest of the world and the real problems are not part of our concern. We've not heard a word in the campaign, actually, almost not a word about this from anybody. Because we're still talking about who can give more and tax less. That still is the essence. We're still in that bubble.
That wins elections.
Well, it does. But, you know, in other countries, it's not the way politics is. In other countries, and I'm in lots of places, that talk about serious things by serious leaders of issues of importance. So it's not impossible in a democracy to have a serious discussion. I think Barack Obama may be the one to bring us back to that discussion.
I'm 2 for 2, no passion yet. No, we'll try from the floor now. We want to open up to the floor. We got a couple of microphones. Please phrase your question in the form of a question, if you would. This young lady over here with her hand up.
Me?
Yes, you.
Oh, cool. First of all, I hope that you guys run this on CNN every day until election.
We do have Jeff on an awful lot because he's willing to get up for us early in the morning. So he'll take a 4 a.m. phone call.
Okay, so here's my question.
Can you introduce yourself first? Please?
Sure. I'm Aviva Ramani, and I'm an ecological artist. My question is, what I hear you all saying is that we've gone, in terms of disturbance theory, from a series of oscillations to a baseline change. So if that's the case, then there's obviously a lot of opportunities. The one thing that's been left out of your entire conversation has been the role of art, because if anything can give people a view of the big picture and skepticism, art can. And I just wonder, in an ideal world, and I can ask this question as an artist, how would you configure a team, presuming Obama wins, to address this from an entirely different point of view, this current problem?
Nouriel, do you want to handle it? You're the protege?
Well, what I would say is that, that if we're thinking about our country and how growth can be sustained in the long run, the crucial things of environment, climate change, and poverty, I think we've also spent the last essentially 20 years spending too much in one form of physical capital is very unproductive, building more and more homes and mansions. And we have not really invested into the physical capital, infrastructure, and other ones that are really leading to increase in productivity of people. And then also for our human capital, we've spent essentially too much of our investment into the wrong types of human capital. You know, when you have a country where you have many more financial engineers than you have computer engineers or mechanical engineers, it says something wrong about how we have allocated both our physical capital, our human capital. When 25% of the market capitalization was financial firms and a third of all profits on Wall Street were financial firms, we've really skewed things towards finance, towards housing, and not enough towards human capital, physical capital, infrastructures, education, and skills that are going to make us grow. And certainly art is one of the things that make people think, have critical thinking about it. So I think that really we have to rethink how we invest into human and physical capital in this society in a radically different way.
Well done. Next question. Yes, this lady here on the... Hi. We have a microphone for you here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Introduce yourself,
I'm Dr.
please.
Dolores
If you could
Keller.
introduce yourself.
I'm Dr. Dolores Keller. Yes. I have a doctorate. I'm a biologist and a psychologist. Mm-hmm. And I'm concerned certainly about the possible stimulus package we're getting. And all we hear, similar to what we heard after 9/11, is go out and shop.
Right.
I'm wondering, to paraphrase another phrase that we've heard, buy, baby, buy. Is that the way we're going to improve the stock market? Is that the way we're going to improve some of these problems that are deep-seated, not just at the surface, which buy, baby, buy will do, but also beneath the surface, something like an iceberg?
George, certainly the last stimulus package that came out earlier this year was geared toward a tax rebate to encourage people to go out there and spend money. A lot of people took that money and tried to reduce their debt load, so it didn't stimulate the economy the way many people were thinking. There was another stimulus package being talked about, but the $700 billion, that doesn't encourage people to go out and buy, baby, buy, does it?
No, the $700 billion was meant to stabilize the financial system. It hasn't been properly used, but more or less going in the right direction, injecting equity. Stimulating the economy will require additional measures, mm-hmm. and there will be, I think, additional stimulus. And I personally think that since the motor of the world economy was the American consumer, that consumed 7% more than it produced over the years, every year, because our current account deficit grew, and that was the main stimulus for the world economy. That motor has been now switched off. You need a new motor. And I think that the problems that confront us on energy, particularly global warming and energy independence, if you combine the two, you do need to develop alternative energy, mm-hmm. And that requires tremendous investment. And I think that has to be, to get there, you need to use the market mechanism by putting a price on carbon. And if you collect that price, either in the form of a tax, which is not very popular, or you disguise it by calling it cap and trade and auction the licenses, which is probably politically more acceptable, you then get revenues. And I would distribute those revenues up front. So people would get the money, that would give them stimulus. But they would have a stimulus to spend it on saving energy because they know that energy has got to cost more, come hell mm-hmm. or high water. This our politicians, and that includes Democrats as well as Republicans, have not come clean on that to deal with that problem, you actually need to put a higher price on energy. Right. And you therefore can invest in energy saving and alternative energy sources.
Do we have students out there who'd like the chance to, this gentleman here with the tie?
Yes, I've three names come to mind: Marx, Malthus, and Meadows. How is there a way to be sustainable when you have the declining surplus capital? I think, but Marx is right, I think, the end of capitalism. How do you deal with population? Because we can't solve the economy in the long term if we don't really stop population growth. And what about just the idea of limits to growth in general? How can we keep an economy growing if we constantly are looking to have